Hi, 7th grade. Miss Dohian here, yet again, to talk to you about the conclusion paragraph for a literary essay this time. Do make sure that you're taking notes on these parts of a conclusion paragraph, and you'll be able to use them as you're drafting. So at the very top, and this should look very similar to yesterday's notes about intro paragraphs, we have that there are three parts of a conclusion paragraph that actually are the reverse of the intro paragraph. First, we have the restatement of the thesis, which is followed by the link back to the hook, and last, the so what. Note that there's a little asterisk or a star by where it says three parts. This means there's more information, and the more information that I do want you to write down is that just because there are three parts, that does not mean that there are only going to be 3 sentences. So it's important to note that each part can be more than 1 sentence. And last, to give you a little bit of a visual before we go into and break down each of these explicit parts, when we're talking about the conclusion, we're talking about moving from the most specific ideas about the text and moving back out to the more general real-world application. So from the text to the real world. Okay, let's talk first about the restatement of the thesis. The restatement of the thesis is not literally restating the thesis. Rather, it's a quick review of all the specific points you brought up in the body of your essay. So the strategies, first and foremost, I want you to signal that you're actually wrapping things up by having a review or summation transition. And these are some possible options, not ones you have to use. But do write these down. These are possible choices that you can use to show, okay, I'm wrapping up all my main specific points about this particular text. And those 4 are to review, in sum, in summary, and to conclude. One little note that I want you to be aware of is that you should double check your previous wrap-up conclusions so that you don't, to avoid repetition. For example, if in your second body paragraph you used in summary for your concluding sentence, don't use in summary right away again. Okay. Then again, we want to review both the main points, and those 2 points would again be how Helmut's view changed and why his view changed. But to make sure that we're adding variety, we have some strategies. First, you can consider chunking each idea in its own separate sentence, just to again dedicate and make sure that you are reviewing both points. You can also add some variety by kind of switching the order in which you talk about the ideas. So if your original thesis talked about how, then why, you could first talk about why, then how. And the reason we do this is, again, to avoid the basic copy and pasting. We don't want to just copy and pasting. That's not showing that I can review these main points in my own words. Another way to avoid copying and pasting is by actually using synonyms or words that mean the same or nearly the same thing. Again, to avoid exact same wording. Use tools like the thesaurus or a dictionary, and Merriam-Webster has both of those functions to help you out. So again, the first thing we want to do is restate our thesis, restate all the main points about the text. Next, after the restatement of the thesis, we want to link back to hook. And the reason we want to link back to the hook is we want to build that sense of cohesion in a very mature writing piece. So we're bringing our ideas full circle, and we're also moving back outward towards the broad general points rather than that specific focus on the text. So depending on which strategy you chose, you'll refer to that back to the hook in different ways. And again, these are just options. They're not mandatory, but they're just helpful options on how to refer back to the hook. So I want you to examine these 3 pieces. If you chose first the question, if that was your hook, you'll refer back to the hook by actually directly answering the question. So a possible sentence starter. So let's say, for example, your question was like, have you ever experienced a shift in your personal beliefs? Um, you'll directly answer the question, um, like just like Helmuth's views change over time, so do many people's views change over time. If you chose a hook, you'll refer back to the hook by first mentioning the speaker's name. That'll be a clear indication you're going back to the hook, and then explaining that connection. So a possible sentence starter you can use is, Helmut's example connects to blank's words, so this would be where you insert the speaker's name because of this reason. Here's the connection. And last, if you use an interesting statement, you refer back to the hook by actually explaining the connection between what Helmut did and like the thing that was so interesting. So you could use a sentence starter like, Helmut's experience shows that X, Y, and Z, whatever, again, your interesting idea was to start off your essay. Do now turn over this piece so we can talk about the so what, the last part of a conclusion paragraph. So the so what is really important because it brings closure to your essay and gives your audience an actual purpose for reading, not just because Ms. Dohan is grading you, but an actual life message. What can your audience take from this piece? So to be more specific about what your so what should include or shouldn't include. So well, let's go over this. It should include or should actually kind of give a theme or a moral that's related to the information presented in the rest of the essay. So basically I want you to be thinking about what can Helmut's example and what can Helmut's experience of change, what does that reveal about how to live life and what's important about life? So on the opposite side of that, if it gives a theme or a moral, that means it's not giving any more just like specific plot information. So you should not end your essay by talking about, and Helmuth's views change and they become more negative, period. Nope, we want to move back towards like their broad real world application. Next, our so what's should bring a sense of closure to our essay. So after your reader's done reading, they should not say, like, is this finished, or is there something that they were going to add? Instead, your so what should help your reader go, oh, like, that makes sense that now, oh, okay, this is over. This has been clearly and fully developed. And one way that we can kind of do that is by leaving the audience with a practical piece of advice or basically the life message. So in other words, we do not want to leave our audience wondering, well, what was the point of this? I mean, I just learned about this character, but what can I take from this? And to help you craft your so what, I've generated some questions. So what you can do to ask yourself, okay, how can I explain a theme or a moral or give my audience advice about this topic is ask yourself, based on Helmut's example, what message do I want my audience to learn about how to live? Or, and more specifically connected to our topic of change, or based on Helmut's example, what message do I want my audience to learn about change? So make sure that you actually use these questions to help you generate your so what and bring closure to your essay. Good luck on drafting your conclusion paragraphs, and keep going, writers.